Think we are. Well, welcome everybody from all over the interwebs. My name is Jake Cook. I'm a co-founder and CEO here at Tadpole, and I'm joined today by a friend from Klaviyo, Naveen, and we're going to walk you through some stuff around increasing lifetime value, and in particular, how you can use SMS to kind of do that with some super exciting stuff. So our agenda this afternoon, this will be about 60 minutes, give or take. We'll have a replay available. So if there's anything you see here that you want to go back and review, we have some kind of hopefully exciting tips and tricks you can use. So that'll be available. You can review at your leisure. And then we'll have Q&A. Behind the scenes is my teammate Chris Davis, who's kind of managing all the background stuff. So we have some questions that were submitted in advance. But if anything's popping up as we go through this, through the live chat, we'll certainly do our best to kind of get through that as well. So we always like when these are kind of more of a conversation and folks are, hey, what about this? Or what do you think about that? We'll do our best to kind of capture that as well as we go through that. So that's kind of what we got for our agenda today. So in particular, Naveen's going to walk you through some amazing stuff you can do with kind of this dynamic duo of SMS and email. And in particular, why we here at Tadpole, why we really love Klaviyo and the way we can kind of orchestrate the right hand and the left hand between email and SMS. And then I will come back and on here, we're going to talk about the art and science. So we'll talk about some inspiration, some cool creative things you can do for some of the brand experiences. And then I'll walk you through, I promise it won't be too painful, but a little bit of the data science behind how to orchestrate some of these experiences and automations as well. And at the end, we'll have a little Q&A. So that's kind of what we got on the docket for this afternoon. On that note, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Naveen. Naveen, thank you again and the entire team at Klaviyo for supporting the webinar and what fantastic partners you all have been for us here at Tadpole. So again, appreciate you making time to share your expertise here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jake. Definitely very excited to be a part of this. Love working with you and your team. My name's Naveen. I'm a sales manager at on the customer growth team here at Klaviyo. When I joined Klaviyo, completely different world. I was around employee 100 4.5 years ago. We're up to about 1,500 employees today with over 120,000 customers, which is really cool. It's been just a whirlwind getting into this space. Love working with brands, helping them grow their businesses through own channels and really understanding their customers in a more meaningful way. So excited to be here, excited to present with you, Jake. So in terms of Klaviyo, for those that don't know Klaviyo, definitely excited to share that with you. For those that do, hopefully you kind of understand the side. I know that there's a lot going on, but what are the main things that I want to call out here? Klaviyo's goal is to help bring all of your data together to make it as easy for you as possible. We're going to be able to bring in data from what your customers are doing with email, with SMS, push notifications, what they're doing on the web and what they're doing on social channels. Then what we can do is we can build experiences off of this. We have our builders, automations, logic that's all built in as well. There is a data science team at Klaviyo that will continuously add more and more functionality, help you leverage the solution and connect with your subscribers in a more meaningful way, helping with churn, lifetime value predictions, attribution modeling, and creating better reporting so that you can present this to your leadership teams. And how do we do this? We're leveraging the database that we're building for you on your customers by unifying profiles, helping with identity resolution, and making sure that the integrations that you have are all seamlessly coming into Klaviyo. Something that when I first joined Klaviyo again 4.5 years ago, that we always said was, we want to make the hard things easy for our customers. We want to make segmentation dynamic and fast for you. We want to be able to pull in as much data as we can. And that's really what our goal is with this unified customer platform. And one of the big things about this is the world continues to change. The channels that organizations are looking to leverage continues to change. We want to be able to grow with our customers. So this is something that I think everyone here has probably seen, has probably dealt with from a business perspective, but also from a personal perspective. Today's consumers have more buying power than ever, and they're demanding data privacy. What does that mean? The internet has been around forever, or at least in most of our lives, it's been around forever. In the past, what we were doing is we were leveraging cookie data to know who visited our website, what were they doing, how could we track that. Since then, businesses have absolutely been innovating and making it even more possible to understand what your customers are doing. But with that, technology has advanced over time, but privacy has not. What does that mean? We're all seeing waves of new legislation being introduced: GDPR, CCPA, CTIA, and most recently the Digital Marketers Act. And what the goal is to allow the consumer to really own their data. And why is this important? Because when consumers own it, you need to communicate to them in through the channel that they want to hear from you, in the manner that they want to hear from you, and based on the timing that they want to hear from you. And that's what's so important. So less stalking, more talking. Funny catchphrase, but it's absolutely very true. If you think about marketing in general, uh, relationships with your customers should be treated that way. It should not be transactional. Your goal is not to sell once to your customer. If that's the case, I've spoken with brands before that sell high ticket items, mattresses, jewelry, things like that. There are always ways that you can continue to sell to them. You may only have one product today, but you may launch additional products in the future. If you only reach out to them and get them to buy and then do not continue to nurture them, when you launch that second product or cross sell something, they're not going to know who you are. They're not going to remember you, and most likely they're going to unsubscribe or opt out. Or if you're um, if you're looking to grow that business, how can you do that? By sharing and asking, how is this product working for you? Getting reviews and using that user generated content for future customers. So that's why you want to treat your subscribers like you're building a relationship with them, a long term relationship. And now more than ever, it's so important to do that because customers are buying from the brands that they trust. Very rarely are you going to see, and again, I'll share personal experiences. I very rarely will go to a site and just buy immediately. Again, I know I've been in this space for a very long time, so maybe I am scarred, but I've spoken to enough individuals. I have enough friends and family that go and buy things online. They're asking others, what did you think about this? How did you hear about that? How is this working for you? So you want to personalize the experience when someone comes to your site to buy. Customer first marketing is something that Klaviyo is going to continue to stress to all of the individuals, all of the brands that we work with. I know Jake and his team absolutely follow this as well. This strategy, it's very simple. Put your customers first. I know it's in the definition, and usually you shouldn't define a word that way, but that's what we're doing. You're selling products to and for the customer, not for yourself. So don't create a marketing strategy that is, again, one-time purchase. Build a relationship with these individuals. What does this mean? Not every email, not every text message that you send needs to be promoting a product, highlighting a sale, or talking about a new launch that you have. Some of the best brands that I've worked with leverage email, SMS, and other channels to build a community, to educate their customers on the products that they sell, the benefits that they sell, and even more importantly, after they buy, how is it working? Can you give us feedback? Do you have questions? That's that customer first mentality that the best brands in the world are leveraging. So there are really three components to customer first marketing. People. These are individuals that you're engaging with: customers, prospects, website visitors, really anyone who engages with your brand. Second is the data that you're building. What are the insights you're learning from these people who have agreed to share it with you? How can you leverage that data in a meaningful way? One of the ways to do that is by experiences. Each experience should feel like it's been created personally for that individual recipient. Now, that definitely seems hard to do, but if you're leveraging the right solutions, working with the right teams, they can help you get that information so that way when you're connecting with your subscribers, you're doing it in a meaningful manner. Why am I starting here? Because this strategy is crucial when it comes to implementing SMS. So in today's world, and again, this is data that we've learned surveying our customers and their customers. This is data we've picked up on the internet. But just think about it for yourself. Today's shoppers want to choose how they interact with brands. I, probably more than others, have signed up for probably 5,000 SMS marketing programs. Verizon, I think, is eventually going to shut down my phone number because I keep getting too many text messages. But that's because I've been doing this for as long as I have been. Many individuals, though, will be very specific. What channels are they going to sign up for? Email, SMS, social, push. What topics do you want to hear from? There are certainly brands that I want to get text messages when they have a new product drop. Most of the time, I want to get text messages when I'm getting confirmation. So when I make a purchase, or even more importantly, shipping confirmations. I like emails for support documentation so I can keep that. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter. Everything that we buy has instructions. I love getting emails so I can go back to that when I eventually lose said instructions. Smart recommendations. I love when brands make it easy for me and tell me what should I be buying. Typically, my wife or my daughter would do that, but if brands can do it, it just makes my life so much easier. So I like when they're able to build that data on me. Again, only for the brands that I give access to, but for those brands, I like when they tell me this is what you're going to like. And then timing. I definitely, I don't want to wake up to 6 text messages from different brands. I like my promotions tab in Gmail, but when again a new product is dropping, there's a new food that my dog eats coming out, a new flavor, which I know sounds silly, but that is actually really important. I want to know that, so the timing is what really matters for me. So why do we invest in SMS? I know it's a very simple question. A question that I always get is like, what brands does this make sense for? I will tell you, there's very few brands that are not allowed to use SMS. So there are certain industries that can't use SMS, but for everyone else, I think you would be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't try SMS. Why is that? It might not be a channel that absolutely blows up for you, but I do think that there will be some subscribers of yours that would rather hear from you through SMS. And we know this because more and more people want to interact with this channel. 75% of consumers say they're open to receiving text from brands that they care about. 3.5 billion people communicate via text, and 90% of text messages are read within 3 minutes. I don't know where those other 10% of people are. I also don't know how it takes 3 minutes. I may be addicted to my phone, but when I get a text message, I'm looking at it right away. Some of the other reasons why SMS is so important: the click-through rate is phenomenal. It's 8x more than what you're going to see with email. And something that's really, really important, especially in today's world, especially kind of with all the changes that are happening for marketing individuals, 75% of customers prefer to receive an SMS versus retargeting or social ads. We all know all the changes that are happening with algorithms for Gmail, for Facebook, for Apple. Connect with individuals through the channel that they want to hear from you, because A, you own it and there are less chances of messages not going through. And B, it's still going to be probably less expensive because you can get in front of more individuals as you build your lists. So the question that I also get asked is like, okay, it makes sense. Like SMS sounds good. Like, why aren't people doing it today? It's a great question. And there are many, many reasons. These are just some of them. One of the biggest reasons is fear of litigation. People have probably all heard it costs around $1,500, or can cost up to $1,500 for a text message that is sent to someone who hasn't given you consent. Think about that. If you send 10 text messages to people that did not consent to you, that's $15,000. A lot of brands don't have that money. It doesn't really matter what brand you are in the world. You don't have that money to spend on litigation. So this is one of the reasons why people don't leverage this. There are too many tools and channels. You will see thousands and thousands of SMS vendors out there. Same way with email. You'll see thousands of email solutions out there. There are too many channels, too many tools. You don't know which ones you should leverage, which one's better. Definitely leads to conflicting data. This one says this one says that. When you're using multiple solutions, you're going to have multiple answers. And oftentimes, I've seen this happen more than I wish to admit. Revenue numbers somehow add up to more than 100%. Now, If a brand is making more than 100% of what they're saying they're bringing in, kudos to them, but very, and when I say very rarely, never has that ever been true. It's because they're using too many different solutions. And even more important, a lot of brands that I talk to have had bad personal experiences with SMS, and they then assume their customers will feel the same way. I see a lot of individuals, a lot of brands that I've spoken with say, I don't think SMS, my customers are going to like it. I remember getting a text and I hated it. Couple things there. One, again, I'm not saying that every single one of your subscribers is going to sign up for SMS marketing, but what I'm saying is at least give them the opportunity to sign up. Two, you very likely were communicated in a very poor manner because a lot of brands are doing this wrong. A lot of brands are just blasting SMS messages the same way they were doing email 6 or 7 years ago, where build a list, send the same message to everyone in that list because that's all they can do. A lot of tools limit the segmentation capabilities that are there. But if you leverage SMS effectively, you will see it to be a powerful channel for you. Again, I am coming from Klaviyo, so I cannot say that email is not a essential, important channel. I always like to say that email is like the cricket that just never dies. I've been through this for a fair amount of time. I heard when Facebook Messenger was the #1 thing you needed to do, and WhatsApp in the US was so important. Instagram DM, I've seen it all. Email is still going to be the most important channel, at least I think, for the next 4 or 5 years. And the data shows that 81% of online shoppers say they prefer to receive most brand communications via email. Again, think about it for yourself. How many brands are texting you versus how many brands are you getting emails from? And sure, you might not look at all those emails and you might click on the delete all in your promotions tab, but you're still signing up for those emails. Shoppers spend 138% more when they're marketed to through email compared to those who don't receive an email offer. And on average, businesses with an average order value between $100 and $500 recover 4 to 5% of their abandoned carts via email. So email is still highly, highly profitable, much less expensive than SMS. I will call it out. So if you can connect with your subscribers and convert them through email, you absolutely should be doing that. But, and again, I said I was on the SMS team here at Klaviyo. SMS and email together is really the best way to go. It helps you drive more revenue, save more carts, and like I was talking about, it helps you start more conversations. It allows for smarter targeting and segmentation. What do I mean by that? I've worked with customers before that were using Klaviyo for email and another SMS provider for their SMS solution. They were sending thousands and thousands of text messages when someone abandoned their cart. They consolidated email and SMS in Klaviyo by adding a conditional split in their flow builder in Klaviyo. Conditional split is just basically saying, did they do something? The conditional split that they added in their abandoned cart flow was if someone has opened or clicked an email at least once in the last 7 days, do not send them a text message when they abandon their cart. They actually increased their revenue by 8%, but reduced their SMS spend with that one split by 38%. They realized that so many people were engaging with their email that they were wasting a text message on. This is why having email and SMS together allows for that smarter targeting. Superior attribution, which I'll go through in a little bit. And even more importantly, it allows for better compliance and consent management. What does that mean? Klaviyo will help you. And if you're leveraging any solution that is email and SMS together, I can only speak to Klaviyo. We will help you understand, did this person give you email consent? Did they give you SMS consent? Did they give you both? But more importantly, did you ask them what channel do they want to hear from you? That's something that a lot of brands aren't doing today. You'll see like multi-step forms where you can ask for email, then SMS, and a lot of brands stop there. Don't. Ask, do you prefer email or SMS? And then use that information to connect with that subscriber through the personal experience that they asked for. So in terms of email and SMS, what are the types of content that make sense for SMS, email, and both? For both, welcome series, transactional messages, loyalty, these are all really great ways to leverage both of those channels. Something that a lot of customers like to do is if someone's not engaging with email content, try to text them. If someone's not engaging with SMS content, try to email them so you can connect with unresponsive contacts. The biggest thing that I'll tell you, and if you're leveraging email and SMS together in one single solution, test those channels. I am not going to tell you that SMS is going to do better than email. I'm not going to tell you that email is going to do better than SMS. What I'm going to tell you is you should test it to see which one performs better. Create a split. 50% of people that have given you consent to text them, 50% get an email, 50% get a text. Which one performs better? Go down that path. That's what's so important of leveraging email and SMS together. But where is email better? Newsletters, announcing new collections, or highlighting multiple products. Like I said, instructions or attachments, things that need to be forwarded, things that need to be saved. That's when email is better. When is SMS better? Flash sales or VIP access. Again, when products drop for certain brands for me, I want to be the first to know. It feels great to be part of that VIP group, and I get to buy it before everyone else. If you're having, and we're getting to a world where you're having local events, pop-up stores, getting back in person. If you're having an event, texting people like, come by, check us out, that's really valuable. And then the other piece is the two-way messaging, being able to connect with individuals and create a conversation at scale is invaluable. And Coco, my dog, I think still gets mad at me, but I ran out of dog food. I texted the brand that I buy from and I said, hey, where can I get this? Or how do I pay to get this quicker? Instead of telling me to pay for expedited shipping, they said, hey, we're actually selling it in this store. Picked it up that day, got it home. That's the power of two-way messaging. So what are the benefits of uniting email and SMS together? Clear attribution. If you're using Klaviyo for email and another SMS solution for SMS, both of those platforms are giving you the wrong data. I'll say Klaviyo's wrong there as well. Why is that? Well, let's think about it. If you send an email through Klaviyo and an SMS through another solution, they click on the email and don't buy, but click on the SMS and buy, Klaviyo will take credit for that sale because we don't know that SMS thing. Vice versa, if you send an SMS through another provider and they click on it and buy, and then you send an email through Klaviyo and they click on it and buy, that SMS solution is going to take credit. If you're using a single solution for both, you will have a much better understanding of that attribution, which will allow you to further invest in the right channel. We've had thousands of customers share this with us. Shoe Sensation mentioned this, and we have a case study on our website if you want to check that out. But attribution was the number one reason why they moved over. Ease of use. Like I already talked about, you can test email and SMS side by side, which you can see in this flow on the right. Flow is what we call our automated or triggered sequences. You can see you can test email and SMS together. You don't have to go through multiple platforms. I highly doubt many teams here have downtime where they can spend extra time bouncing between two different solutions. If you have one, it allows for everything to be created in that one solution, and you can build that unified customer profile. But I think the most important thing is you're going to build a better subscriber experience. I cannot tell you, and I challenge everyone here on this call, how many times have you gotten annoyed when you signed up for a brand and you got an email and a text message at the exact same time? That's annoying to me. Now think about it from the brand's perspective. What if you're sending coupons out? If I get a coupon through SMS and email, does that mean I get to use two coupons? Does that mean one's greater than the other? That's the problem of having two different solutions. When they're together, you can connect with your subscribers and build a better subscriber experience. In terms of Klaviyo SMS, I know I've spoken about it a little bit, where we are working with over 10,000 brands that are using us for email and SMS together. Their average ROI is about 122x, and over Cyber Weekend, we helped our customers generate about $31 million through SMS alone. There are so many ways that you can leverage the solution. Jake and his team have helped hundreds of customers leverage this: A/B testing, segmentation, building that unified experience, and then list growth. Those are things that Klaviyo absolutely excels in. In terms of Klaviyo, what I like to call out is we launched a solution years ago. It was okay. If you looked at our product probably 2 years ago, you're probably like, all right, this looks interesting, but definitely not where I need it to be. You're right, it wasn't. We have added so much functionality in the last 2 years. This is just stuff that we added this year alone, and we're 4 months in, and we're continuing to invest in this. SMS is the number one channel that Klaviyo is focused on in terms of building, so we will continue to add more and more functionality for our customers.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Naveen. We're going to have you back here in a little bit as we go through some Q&A, but a ton of fantastic tips and tricks here as well. I'm going to walk everybody through some tactical examples here. So we're going to, as you kind of see the stage of what you can do with SMS and the reasons why it's worth taking a hard look at, we're going to get some very tactical things on kind of this kind of art and science. So as Naveen mentioned, customers are definitely expecting brands. 72%, according to McKinsey from December, surveyed said that they expect brands to see them as an individual and understand their needs. And this is what's really kind of shocking here is 90% of customers will share their data if they have a positive experience with the brand. And what our CFOs and investors like to hear is there's 40% more revenue to be had by personalizing these marketing activities and tactics. So customers are happy to share their data as long as they see some sort of personalization and it can do an uptick in your revenue. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of kind of what modern e-commerce is right now, kind of the art and science. So we're all kind of smiling, and then once we get through a campaign, we kind of look to the side like, oh dear. So what I want to walk you through is this framework of kind of the art of customer experience and kind of the science of lifetime value. So we're going to walk you through some examples on how to use data to guide your inspiration, and then how you orchestrate those key moments with the technology against that customer journey as well. So our first example here, and I want to give, first of all, I should pause and say a huge thanks to Cassie and Alexis from Team Tadpole. I have the easy job of showing off all this fantastic work they've done, so I'm really standing on the shoulders of giants here a little bit. And also huge thanks to our customers, Schnee's, Oboz, and Heat Transfer Warehouse. In particular, Matt from the Schnee's team, who's been amazing at letting us try lots of things and test. So tactically, here's what we think about when we kind of the art of capturing consent, and then we capture interest. So we look at kind of a capturing email first. And notice this isn't sign up, whatever, we're trying to think about different things. You do 5%, 25%, free shipping, different things like that. The call to action button is join the club. The next one is how we track these deals. So as Naveen was mentioning, some of those VIP incentives, exclusivity that we can use to get that SMS or grab that phone number. And number 3 is customer interest. And we do this regardless of the customer, trying to get people to say really quickly, especially on mobile, a couple quick areas they can tick a box that will dump them into a segment around their audience interests. And so what we've seen is the riches are in the niches. And I'll talk about that more here in a second. So this is kind of where those audience segments we capture drive our content and our creative. So if someone from Schnee's is interested in some, say, winter hunting or winter hiking, we can build a list just for that and start to build content with our creative team and campaigns against that. So what we see is over time, our top performing interest categories start to emerge from these different lists. We can then take our paid media and make sure it's syncing with these efforts. So if we see outdoor hiking, winter hiking is performing exceptionally well, we might start to think about running special campaigns and paid that way with our paid team. And then finally, I always like to say, we want to plan carefully. Insane engagement's great, but it can easily kind of be the nail that and everything looks like with your hammer. So being aware that some of these things, as Naveen was mentioning, can degrade over time. So being really careful on how you push that. And this is kind of the science of what these smart segments look like. We see against the test group, so we've split our tests here. So we have a control group and a test group. In the test group, we saw 13% higher open rates, 50% higher click-through rates, and most importantly, 70% higher conversion rates by kind of following these tactics and building these segments. Next up, we're going to talk about kind of how you start SMS from scratch with a case study from Heat Transfer Warehouse, a fantastic company out of Fargo, North Dakota. So if you're in heat transfer, you for creatives or crafters that maybe use like a Cricut machine, you want to create your own t-shirts or cool designs, Heat Transfer Warehouse has everything you need for those kind of uses. And so what we thought about, we had just getting them into SMS and starting from scratch. There was no SMS in place. And so we thought about that intercept of, hey, friend, you deserve the VIP treatment. Again, that exclusivity and focusing on the loyalty as well. So that would be where we get the intercept to capture them. And then we use this kind of creative exclusivity. And so we worked with early access for products or promotions, upgrading deals or exclusives, and then using some of those automations, as Naveen was saying, we're using time delays and filters so we don't over message. And so you can suppress and split some of those conditionals so people don't get an email and an SMS. Again, what's so great about having the right hand know what the left hand's doing with Klaviyo as well. Another thing too, along those lines, is the creative exclusivity of building community. So if you have someone on your side, you have a product where your community is doing really interesting things with it, and you might think about starting to test this in your SMS or your emails of, hey, this is some really cool creative inspiration of what someone did with our product. So the user starts to get a little bit of variable rewards, meaning they might see a special offer, but they might just get inspiration, which can be really powerful as well. And then back to the science component of this, back to the control group, a 35% average month-over-month list growth. So that list compounded every month at 35%, which we were pretty excited about. 14% average click rate. Klaviyo's got some great in-app metrics to kind of see how you compare against your peers. So a little bit higher than the benchmark, which we're excited about. Most importantly, kind of a 21x return on investment. This is Kirk, one of the co-founders, and he had this great quote. Said, one huge bonus of SMS with all the supply chain issues was the out-of-stock notifications, which allowed our customers to sign up and get instant notifications once the product was in stock. And the perk of SMS was that they were the first to get notified before emails were sent. This one feature alone allowed us to stay one step ahead of our other suppliers and keep our customers happy. This is a great example of kind of making lemonade out of lemons given today's current environment of supply chains. So when we can find products that come in stock, instead of saying a back in stock notification, we can use that exclusivity and say, hey, we're not sure who's going to get it first unless you sign up from SMS, and we can ensure you get that access first, which is great. Now here's a pro tip. How do you know when to fire these intercepts? Capturing that person when and where is really important, and a first-time visitor to your site is going to have a very different engagement level than a repeat visitor. And let's just put multi-device off to the side here for attribution. This is a really quick hack you can do. So if you go into Google Analytics, go in and just segment your user base year over year or quarter over quarter, compare year over year, and then look at your first-time users versus your repeat. This is a data set I use in my courses I teach on e-commerce. So it's the Google Merchandise Store. And when we go in and we look at this data, the first-time users spend about 2 minutes and 28 seconds on site, where a repeat user spends about 3 minutes and 10 seconds. So as is common across all of kind of e-commerce sites, the first-time visitors are a lot less engaged as they come in. But we know that in 2 minutes and 28 seconds, we've got almost 2.5 minutes to capture them with an email opt-in or something like that. And if you go to most websites today, the first thing they do is slap an opt-in right in front of your face before you even can get your head around what the navigation looks like, which is really tricky with a hamburger menu on mobile. So thinking through like, hey, we're not going to fire this intercept for 45 seconds, and we're going to test that as a group for, say, a month. And as Naveen was mentioning, that testing thing is so critical because every customer base will perform a little bit different. And then also with this group, we see that they're about 4.7 pages per session. So maybe we don't fire this for 2 minutes, or if they've gone to the second or third page on the site. And now we're building some ways where we're not right in their face, and we have a much higher chance of getting them to engage. Another thing is testing your value. So 20% off is a very common thing. We've done a lot of testing, 10%, 20%, 15%. And we'll capture that as a group or a cohort of customers, and we'll see how that group performs over time. So testing those opt-ins and measuring lifetime value by customer groups is a really important thing as well. So intercepts are great. A lot of times people set them and they'll offer free shipping or these 20% offs for years. And you can give away a lot of margins by not testing like, wow, do we get the same opt-ins if we did 10% instead of 20%? Your CFO will love you if you can show that. The next example is Oboz Footwear. Here in our hometown of Bozeman, Montana, phenomenal brand. You can buy them local retailers. They're in REI. And then when the pandemic hit, they had to shift to kind of a D2C strategy as well. We see about a 72% net promoter score, and they've had 38% growth month over month in their e-commerce. So we think about this kind of art of surprise and delight. And we're going to talk about email here. So here's the surprise here a little bit. Instead of saying, hey, we're back in stock, we use this like, hey, the wait is over. And a huge shout out here again to Rich and Abigail and the team at Oboz for really nailing brand experience and voice and tone in a really spot on way at every kind of micro interaction. So the customer gets an automated email, it's back in stock, hey, the wait is over. So we're kind of surprising them. And then the delight. So reminding this customer that, hey, you're going to use these to go to really cool places. So these shoes are a tool to get you outside. So instead of abandoned cart email of, hey, buy now, don't forget you left this behind. It's like, hey, you're right where you left them, shake off those cold feet, let's go get outside and have a hike. So a little bit of creative ways versus the typical abandoned cart. Now we do this science of customer journey, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in a second, but we're trying to think kind of the right product for the right customer, and then we're using artificial intelligence to kind of do that at the right time. Again, going back to the research showing that customers are happy to give you their data, they expect it to be personalized, so here's how ways you can kind of do that, but staying out of their face if you don't have a reason to do it. So this is a persona of Sarah. She's got user interest. Maybe she hikes in snow. She likes mid-height shoes. She wears a size 7. And then we'll use statistics to predict what's the probability that she's likely to purchase and what device and in what channel as well, so the right time. When you do that, we saw a 25% lift in open rates, 123% lift in conversion rates, and what's really exciting is $0 in ad spend. So moving not only inventory, but lowering our acquisition costs and boosting lifetime value and not using paid media to do it as well. What you'll notice is it says, Amy, we're a fan of you too. There are only a few sinks, waterproof boots left in your size. Order now and get them in time for your next adventure. So again, using that lemon of inventory to create a little lemonade and urgency and also exclusivity for Amy. Okay, let's talk about kind of optimizing conversions with data science. I promise this won't hurt. This will be a quick example, but what's really fascinating here is you'll see some amazing ways to kind of map your customer journey. So probably no surprise to anybody on this call, post-iOS has forever changed digital marketing. I've been in digital almost my entire career, teaching and working in the space. And I think what we're seeing now is just a massive, massive upheaval, but there's a huge amount of opportunities here too. So 71%, according to Forrester here this month, a survey from Forrester says that 71% are struggling with cross-selling and upselling and finding it very challenging. So probably no surprise to everyone here. But we're still kind of in the early innings of SMS. So it's up from 18%, but 25% of marketers are only automating the customer journey here, according to the State of Marketing Automation from Ascend 2. So early innings here for SMS and a massive opportunity to go out there and start to build really cool experiences with your customers ahead of your competitors. Okay, so let's walk through a quick data science example. Now this is going to use data that is not super exciting per se, but almost everybody has it lying around somewhere in some capacity. This is a data set I use in my graduate courses. So if you're familiar with Kaggle or the University of California, Irvine, they've got all these repos of data that live that you can do some analysis on. This is an online merchant. We've got about 500,000 orders. First thing we do to do lifetime value is we segment out people that only made one purchase. So we're just looking at the customers who made 2 purchases. There's about 2 years of data, and our lifetime value is about $389. And I'll walk you through a quick insight you can grab. And this is stuff you don't necessarily know how to code. You can go in and do this in Excel as well. What we need is customer transaction data, which is an order ID that we can append to the customer that has the date, timestamp, and the amount. And that's all you really need to do this. So this is how we start to do some data-driven journeys. So in this particular customer data set, this is kind of what our curve looks like of days between purchases. And as Naveen mentioned, getting that second purchase is so critical to boost that lifetime value. The number one thing that will drive your lifetime value is the recency. There's recency, frequency, and monetary. They call it RFM models. This is what a lot of the standard traditional customer lifetime values work. But the recency is the most important thing to factor on. So we know in this customer data set that days 10 to 40 were pretty high engagement. It's kind of going up, right? So enthusiasm's high, and that might be a sweet spot for an SMS opt-in or to build an SMS flow. So again, using that, hey friend, you've already bought from us, you deserve VIP treatment, come on in, let's take care of you. This shifts though at day 40. So we're starting to slide down the backside of that curve, and customers are starting to fall off. And now we got to go to that kind of surprise and delight. So wait is over. If we have back in stock, hey, we haven't seen you purchase in a while. We'd love to offer you free shipping or some of those kinds of things. We're big fans at Tadpole of really focusing on exclusivity and not resorting to discounts to get people to purchase, because that can often train the customer base to perform in ways that erode margins. So exclusivity is a big one, especially with supply chains, as you can do some fun, creative stuff. And then when we get to the bottom of this curve, the customers are likely gone. We can use some win-back tactics, free shipping on us or some of that kind of stuff as well. Again, not a huge fan of this stuff, but if you look at the size of those green bars, they're pretty small, the number of customers, compared to what we see to the left of this. So why we can go after these, this is where automations like set it and forget it become really powerful and helpful, but we're going to do much better by focusing when the meatier part of the curve to the left, if possible. Here's a pro tip as well. There's some really exciting algorithms out there. There's some open source stuff you can use Google Analytics data to forecast what some of this stuff may look like as well. This is pulling from an open source API called Facebook Profit, which does time series predictions. So this is a data set of about 4 years, looking at the dots, for example, our daily sales, and it takes that data and it predicts what that's going to look like going forward 3 or 4 years. So you have a few years of data in Google Analytics. You can export a CSV and run this analysis. The light blue is kind of the confidence intervals, and the dark blue is where it feels pretty reasonable for the projections. And from that algorithm and from using this API, we can predict some cool stuff. So we can predict our revenue and our traffic. We can also model out what the holiday impacts are. So for example, St. Patrick's Day might be really important. Oftentimes when we work with customers, our prospect will do an analysis on this, and we'll find Columbus Day is a lift of 20% beyond what we would normally predict. So now we start to plan our email campaigns and some special exclusivity around random holidays that are showing up in the data set. The other thing you can get is best day of the week. This is really helpful for driving those email and SMSs. So in this data set, Monday surprisingly is really high, and then Tuesday. We've also seen that curve flip the other way, where Sunday can be extremely powerful for certain brands for sending that, and the artificial intelligence tells us that. And the last piece is we can kind of predict demand curves as well. So if we're out of stock and our suppliers are giving us some challenges, we might kind of lean back a little bit, even though we'd love to reach out to customers and get some sales. That's where the demand curve is, but we might have to lean back based on that. That'll help predict some of that as well. All right, so let's talk about how we increase customer lifetime value. What I think around customer lifetime value, every customer is losing clients out the back. We're constantly churning. We hope we can keep them for 2 to 5 years, but sometimes we might get one and done. They're in and they're out. So a good metaphor is, you think of your customer base, you're acquiring them in daily increments, right? But once you acquire them, it's kind of like a balloon that's going to be constantly falling. You have to kind of keep tapping it to keep it up. So what's really interesting in working with customers is not all our customers are valuable. This is a great graph. I apologize, it's a little bit grainy, but this is from Dr. Peter Fader at the Wharton School. And this myth that our customers are evenly distributed. And actually the reality is there's a few that are really valuable and a lot of them aren't. And so knowing who our best customers are, who's the kind of the fat head of that, and treating them in a special and unique way is really, really critical. Here's a cautionary tale from the public markets. This is Overstock.com versus Wayfair. So what you see is over the lifetime of a customer at Overstock using publicly available data, they eke out about $9. Compared to Wayfair, they lose $10. And if you look at what's happening with CPMs and paid media these days, there's probably a lot harder days ahead to get lifetime value to perform and go up and to the right. So this is where, again, getting those green bars a little bit higher and trying to minimize those red bars becomes really important. Email and S are fantastic. We're trying to keep that balloon up in the air as they go through quarter over quarter. So what you want to be thinking about when you do these things is kind of taking data science, which this is a kind of a geeky graph, but all it's telling you is the probability the customer is alive based on that data set we saw earlier on transaction data. So, they're alive, but by day 25, we're losing them, by day 50, and then by day 75, and then they're kind of done. So those first 0 to 25 days are huge, and you're just going to kind of reset, get the balloon up, and then it's going to start to fall again as well. And you'll see this kind of jagged, almost like a sawtooth looking graph when you graph customers, because they're up and then they fall, and then we bump up and then they fall off. But you want to take that kind of data science and start to create really fun, artful automations. And again, we always say e-commerce is art and science. The science can drive really fun creative, so they actually tend to work really well together. So for oboes, for example, we might find that Sarah's high value, meaning she buys frequently, but she doesn't buy on discount. That's a key thing as well. We might see high click rates for email and SMS. And because of that, we're going to suppress Sarah from our audience targeting and retargeting as well. And from that, we can reward her with the thank you for being a loyal fan and some of that kind of stuff as well. Recognizing her, making her feel special, and then doing that mathematically using statistics to show us that, hey, Sarah actually throws off good cash flows for us, and let's make sure we take good care of her. She's a key asset for the business. So we're going to finish with a little Q&A here, but there's 3 key takeaways, I would say, to kind of wrap this up a little bit. So first of all, you want to start collecting consent and interest. As we say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time is today. So you want to be planting those data trees, if you will. So collecting email, phone numbers, and as we saw in the example with Schnee's, customer interest. Using Google Analytics to figure out when you can fire and build those first-time customers based on your session duration and pages per session. And then, as always, just making sure you're getting that consent as well. As Naveen said, that very cautionary tale of the $1,500 fine, you want to avoid that at all costs. Use them together. So this is where you can do some really fun, sophisticated orchestration across that customer journey. And then ultimately focusing on customer loyalty. We work a lot with private equity investors or VCs or even people that are looking to raise capital, and the ones that can show repeat purchase rates and really high lifetime value, those have a really good opportunities that emerge from a finance perspective for them. This is more advanced, but other things there too is if you're thinking ahead a little bit, maybe some stuff's like, yeah, we're already doing a lot of these things. I would encourage you to leverage your data to predict those opportunities. So as we saw, using some off-the-shelf algorithms and APIs to do some time series forecasting. Every customer has a unique journey, and every brand has a unique customer base. So those curves will look a little different, and the time between purchases and things like that look a little different for a lot of reasons. But they all tend to follow a general shape for the most part. All brands lose customers. It's kind of this like bummer thing, and that's okay. You just don't want to be losing those ones with high lifetime value. And that's a key thing where the data science will help you identify those as well from the math. And we were at a conference a few weeks ago, and one of the keynotes had this great quote, and they said, Facebook created a generation of lazy marketers. Paid media is going to be forever altered here with what's going with data and iOS. Probably no surprise to many on this call. But thinking about how you can own these customers and own those interactions and build really cool pieces that you don't have to pay a toll for to paid media will be really critical. Real quick thing, if you want to, if you go to benchmark.tadpole.com, we partnered up with E-commerce Fuel, which is a private community for merchants. And every 24 hours, we're grabbing lots of data sets. So you can see what's going on. You can add your site. It's all anonymous. And you can see a whole thing going through a whole daily summary on conversion rates, geo data, even revenue, the benchmark driving through SMS. If you're curious about some of the data science stuff, if you go to tadpole.com, e-commerce growth plan, you can go kind of check out what we do to kind of help customers get up to speed using some of that data sets that you have probably lying around that could be huge across Google Analytics, Shopify data, in Klaviyo as well. So that can be kind of helpful for mapping out a realistic growth plan and doing some of those future-looking forecasts using machine learning on that side of it. So on that note, we've got some questions here. Naveen, I've got a couple here. And someone asked, will there be a replay? Absolutely. We'll definitely share the replay. But Naveen, I've got a couple questions here on my other screen, and I was wondering if we could put you on the spot and fire away a couple.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first one here is, what if my SMS provider doesn't allow me to segment on customer interests? How can I still segment my customers?
If you're not able to segment based off of customers' interest, I think one of the best things to do is segment based off of engagement. So is someone clicking in SMS? If there's any way to sync email and SMS data together with whatever SMS provider that is, that could also be beneficial. Or if someone has opened an email campaign that you sent, then don't send them a text message. That is something that I'd recommend. That would be a very later recommendation after saying you should use a solution that you can segment off of and use one solution for both. But if you're stuck using two, using engagement data is probably the best thing that you can leverage.
Perfect. Our next one here is, should we just switch our focus to SMS now versus email?
No, absolutely not. While SMS is definitely really, really a valuable channel, email, like I said, is still the #1 channel for most brands. The thing that I like to say is a lot of people think email and SMS, and that's exactly what this question was asked. Are they competing? No. Email and SMS should be working together. When they're paired together, that's going to drive the best results.
Another one, I have all my customers' phone numbers in my e-commerce platform, so can I just go ahead and just start messaging them?
No, do not do that. Do not do that. I will say, do not do that. And I very rarely say don't do things, but do not do that. You still need to get consent from those individuals. Something that I recommended for brands that have been on Klaviyo for email, but not using anything for SMS today, is actually to send emails to these individuals and say, hey, we're launching SMS, text join, text your brand name to your sending number. Another thing that you can leverage, and again, I'm going to talk about Klaviyo specifically, is you could create targeted sign up forms. What that means is you could create a segment called all email subscribers without SMS consent. When those people come back to your website, you can show a specific sign up form. So when they're on the site, it'll say, thanks for coming back. Give us your phone number to become an extra VIP and hear first about new specials. That's how you can convert your email subscribers into SMS subscribers.
Fantastic. Laura is joining us from Ireland, and her question here on live chat is, I'm based in Ireland and some of my clients are in Ireland. I'm unsure about using a USA number to start with. How can we have an Irish number?
Yep. In terms of Klaviyo, Klaviyo currently does not support sending through Ireland. We do partner with Twilio. A lot of customers can leverage like Zapier to connect Twilio into Klaviyo for sending. I would recommend share this feedback through the chat support or different teams. I will take this and pass it along to our product team as we continue to grow the audience that we're connecting with.
Perfect. Another one here is we don't have in-house data scientists or analysts. How can we get some of these predictive insights as was shown today?
I would absolutely say work with Jake and his team. They just went through, and I've sat through enough data science presentations. They're detailed. This was interactive and really helpful. So Jake's team can absolutely help you out with that.
Thank you, Naveen. Next question here. How many SMS messages should I be sending?
It's a good question. It is really dependent on the brand. I see some brands that send 2 or 3 times a week. I see other brands send 2 or 3 times a month. It's really going to be based on like, what are you sending? If you're leveraging SMS just to send promotions, 2 SMS messages a month, unless you're in like the holiday season or having, or fast fashion, or like you have big drops. The brands that are doing 2 or 3 times a week, like I said, they're nurturing customers, they're educating customers, they're giving. I was working with a exercise equipment brand, and they would actually send weekly exercise tips through SMS for those that signed up. That was great. It built a community. They were then able to ask for videos from those individuals so they could create user-generated content. So it's really based on what you're going to be sending.
Naveen, one thing I'm a huge fan of is just following brands and seeing, getting exposed to lots of different experiences. So in your opinion, is there any like top maybe 1 or 2 brands that you think do SMS in a really fun, interesting way, to kind of taking on that example of the exercise equipment company?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely Control Freak. It's a gaming company out of Atlanta. Definitely leveraging email and SMS really well together. I talked about Shoe Sensation. Dagny Dover is another brand that works really well. Some other customers like Ruggable, definitely leveraging Klaviyo really well. Mix Tiles. I have like probably 100 of them in my house. They're the things that you stick on your wall. They're blowing up with email and SMS together. So those are some of the brands I would recommend evaluating.
And if you're saying someone's getting started, and you talked about this, you did a great job earlier talking about empathy for customers and understanding your customers. Any tips or tricks you found for just to kind of go out and get those insights and kind of map that journey maybe more from a qualitative research perspective?
It's just so difficult because of the variabilities of every brand. Klaviyo has benchmark data, like on our help center and everything that you can check out. I don't have any concrete numbers. What I would basically say is you just want to test. That's something that Klaviyo has taught me. I think it's ingrained in me now. Test everything. See if email and SMS works better. This is, again, I've told customers, pull back on your SMS strategy because SMS is not driving the increase in revenue that you wanted to spend more on that channel because SMS is more expensive. So you really want to just test and see which one works better.
100%. One other thing, just kind of take on that question real quick here too, is what we've seen work really well is talking to customer support. So interviewing a couple people in customer support, like, hey, what are common questions you see and things like that. That can drive FAQs, but it can also kind of drive that post-purchase flow of like common questions. And it sounds like, Naveen, you've had some experiences with brands where they're sharing you tips and tricks and stuff kind of post-purchase as well. So the customer support people like it. It lowers their ticket numbers too over time, so you kind of become a hero. We found too as well. So perfect. Last question here. Crystal ball, Naveen, where do you feel like SMS is going to be in 3 years?
Um, I personally think SMS will be the primary channel that brands leverage to communicate with their subscribers. And the reason for this is, well, there's many reasons. One is the privacy concerns around email. Again, email has been around forever. It is getting more and more regulated with the different different pieces of legislation that are going into effect. You're seeing Apple, others like creating more privacy restrictions, which I think is important. So I think email is still going to be very important, but I think SMS will continue to grow to be that channel. I think one of the other really important reasons why SMS is going to be so valuable to brands is that direct connection with the subscriber, the ability to have a conversation. Like in Klaviyo, we have SMS conversations. You can send a text message to individuals, ask them to reply, and then have a full-fledged conversation with them. Brands are using this as a sales tool. So they'll reach out and say, like, if someone is browsing the same product 3 times in the last 7 days, maybe you reach out to them, hey, if you have any questions, text us. We're happy to help you. They make it a sales team involved. And if they have a store, invite them into the store. Others, like I said about customer support, that's huge. Connecting into Gorgeous, Zendesk, things like that. Being able to communicate through the channel that individuals prefer. So I really do think that SMS, I'm not saying it will be bigger than email in terms of messages sent, but I think it will be more important than email.
And last question there. Have you noticed any generational data that shows, millennials or Gen Z versus, say, a boomer audience in terms of adoption of SMS with brands?
It's a question that always comes up. I hear from brands that are selling to different demographics. Like my customer base would not be interested. It's absolutely fair to assume that younger individuals will find SMS marketing more effective. However, what I will say is even for those brands that are selling like exclusively to demographics that you would not assume SMS marketing works for, you should still offer it because there will be certain individuals that prefer to hear from you through that channel.
Perfect. Well, we're still in the early innings of SMS, as some of the data shows. So lots of opportunities to grab market share. No surprise, the data is going to be what's going to help drive you forward, whether it's testing or just building data sets that you can test at a future date. So I want to say again a huge thanks on behalf of Team Tadpole, Cassie and Alexis, who put together all this great work for me to show. Chris Davis helped me put this on, and Naveen and Lizzie and Katie from the Klaviyo team that were so generous with their time and expertise to pull this off. So a huge thanks to everybody that attended. Again, we'll have this as a recording. We'll send an email out. So if you didn't get to catch all of it or want some highlights, we'll have that coming in the next week or so. So on that note, Naveen, we'll let you get back to your afternoon. Thanks everybody for attending. And if you have any questions, hit us up, hi@Tadpole.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.